Well, murder in the first degree, premeditated homicide, is the most serious charge tried in our criminal courts. You have heard a long and complex case, gentlemen, and it's now your duty to sit down to try and separate the facts from the fancy. One man is dead, the life of another is at stake. If there is a reasonable doubt in your minds as to the guilt of the accused, then you must declare him not guilty. If, however, there is no reasonable doubt, then he must be found guilty. Whichever way you decide, the verdict must be unanimous. I urge you to deliberate honestly and thoughtfully. You are faced with a great responsibility. Thank you, gentlemen.
Alright, now you gentlemen can handle this any way you want to. I mean, I'm not going to make any rules. If we want to discuss it first and then vote, that's one way. Or we can vote right now to see how.
Let's vote now. Who knows? Maybe we can all go home.
Okay, all those voting guilty, raise your hands. There's 7 for guilty. Okay, not guilty. 7 to 1 guilty.
You think he's not guilty?
I don't know.
I have never seen a guilty man in my life. He knifed his own father. 4 inches in the chest. An innocent little young 19-year-old kid. They proved it 2,000 different ways.
So, why did you vote for not guilty?
There was someone was for guilty. It's not too easy for me to raise my hand and send off a boy to die without talking about it first. Look, this boy has been kicked around all his life. You know, living in a slum, his mother dead since he was 9. That's not a very good head start. I think we owe him a little words. That's it.
I may have an idea. Maybe we're right and he's wrong. Maybe if it took a minute or two, you know, we sort of try it on size.
That sounds fair enough. Supposing we go once around the table, I guess you are first.
He's guilty. I thought it was obvious. I mean, nobody proved otherwise.
Nobody has to prove otherwise.
Okay, let's get to the facts. Number 1. Let's take the old man who lived on the second floor right, under the room where the murder took place. At 10 minutes after 12 on the night of the killing, he heard loud noises in the upstairs apartment. He said it sounded like a fight. Then he heard a kid say to his father, "I'm gonna kill you." A second later, he heard a boy falling, and he ran to the door of his apartment, looked out, and saw the kid running after the house. You know, then he called the police. They found the father with a knife in his chest.
And the coroner fixed the time of death at around midnight.
The boy's entire story is flimsy. He claimed he was at the movies. That's a little ridiculous, isn't it? He couldn't even remember what picture he saw.
That's right. Did you hear that? You're obviously right.
Look, what about the woman across the street? If her testimony don't prove, then nothing does.
That's right. She saw the killing. Here's a woman who's lying in a bed and can't sleep. Anyway, she looked out the window and right across the street, and she saw the kid stick the knife into his father. She's known the kid all his life, and his window is right opposite hers, across the train tracks. You know, and she saw while doing it.
Through the windows of a passing train? How come you believed her? They heard the father hit the boy twice and then saw the boy angrily out of the house. What does that prove?
It doesn't actually prove anything. It's just part of the picture. I didn't say it proved anything.
Anything else?
No.
Alright, how about you?
I don't know. We can talk about this thing all day, but I think we are wasting our time. Look at the kid's record. He stole a car, he's been arrested for mugging, he was picked up for knife fighting, he stabbed somebody in the arm. This is a very fine boy.
Ever since he was 5 years old, his father beat him up regularly.
So would I, a kid like that.
You're right. It's the kids. The way they are, you know. They don't listen. I have got a kid. When he was 8 years old, he ran away from a fight. I saw him. I was so ashamed. I told him, right out, I'm gonna make you man out of you, or I'm gonna bust you up into little pieces trying. When he was 15, he hit the man in the face. He's big, you know. I haven't seen him in 3 years. Rotten kid. You work your heart out. Oh. Right, let's get on with it.
We are missing the point here. This boy, let's say he's a product of filthy neighborhood and broken home. We can't help that. We are not here to go into reasons why slums are breeding grounds for criminals. They are, I know it, so do you. The children who came out of slum backgrounds are potential menaces to society.
I have lived in a slum all my life. I used to play in backyard that was full filled with garbage. May it still smells on me.
Now, let's be reasonable. There is nothing personal.
There is something personal.
Come on, he didn't mean you, fella. Let's not to be sensitive. I can understand this sensitivity.
Now, let's start the bickering. We are wasting time.
Alright, I had a peculiar feeling about this trial. Somehow I felt that the defense counsel never really conducted a true cross-examination. I mean, he was appointed by the court of the defend the boy. He hardly seemed interested. Too many questions were left unasked.
What about the ones that were asked? For instance, let's talk about that cute little Swiss knife. You know, the one that fine, upright kid admitted by.
Alright, let's talk about it. Let's get in here and look at it. I'd like to see it again.
We all know what it looks like. I don't see why we have to look again.
The boy admits going out of his house after being punched by his father. He went to a neighborhood store and bought a Swiss knife. The storekeeper was arrested the following day when he admitted selling it to the boy. It's a very unusual knife. The storekeeper identified it and said it was the only one of its kind he had in stock. Why did the boy get it? Am I right so far?
Right.
You bet he's right. I'm telling all of you. Now, listen to this man, he knows what he's talking about.
Next, the boy claims that on the way home, the knife must have fallen through a hole of his coat pocket. He never saw it again. Now there's a story, gentlemen. You know what actually happened. The boy took the knife and a few hours later stabbed his father with it and even remembered to wipe off the fingerprints.
Here it is.
Everyone connected with the case identified this knife. Now you are trying to tell me that someone picked it up off the street and went up the boy's house and stabbed his father with it.
No, I'm just saying it's possible that the boy lost his knife and someone else stabbed his father with a similar knife. It's possible.
Look at that knife. It's a very strange knife. I have never seen one like that before in my life.
What? Quiet. Let's be quiet.
I'm just saying it's possible.
Where did you get it?
I got it last night in a little junk shop around the corner of boy's house. It cost $6.
Now, listen to me. You pulled a real smart trick here. But to prove it, anything. Maybe there are 10 knives like that, so what?
Maybe there are.
The boy lied and you know it.
He may have lied. Do you think he lied?
I'm sure he lied.
I've got a proposition to make. I want to call for a vote. I want 7 men to vote by secret ballot. I'll abstain. If there are still 7 votes for guilty, I won't stand alone. We're taking a guilty verdict right now.
Okay, let's do it.
Guilty. Guilty. Guilty. Guilty. Guilty. Not guilty. Guilty.
Who was it? I think we have a right to know.
Excuse me, this was a secret ballot. We agreed on this point. If the gentleman wants it to remain secret.
What do you mean? There are no secrets in here. I know who it was. What is the matter with you? You come in here and you vote guilty and then this slick picture starts to tear your head out with stories about poor little kid who just couldn't have become a murderer. So you change your vote. If that isn't most sickening, we are trying to put a guilty man into chair where he belongs. And all of a sudden, we are paying attention to fairy tales.
He didn't change his vote. I did. Maybe you would like to know why.
No, we wouldn't like to know why.
The man wants to talk.
Thank you. This gentleman chose to stand alone against us. That's his right. It takes a great deal of courage to stand alone even if you believe in something very strongly. He left the verdict up to us. This man gave it for support and I gave it to him. The boy probably guilty, but I want to hear more. The vote is 6-2 now.
If the boy didn't kill him, who did?
Look, the old man heard the kid yell, I'm gonna kill you. A second later, he heard the father's bullet falling. And he saw the boy running out the house 50 seconds after that.
That's right. And let's not forget the woman across the street. She looked into the open window and saw the boy stab his father. She saw it. Now, that's not enough for you.
It's not enough for me.
The woman saw the killing through the windows of the moving elevated train. The train had 5 cars and she saw it through the windows of the last 2. She remembers the most insignificant details.
Well, what have you got to say about that?
I don't know. It doesn't sound right to me.
Well, supposing you think about it.
So, how long does it take an elevated train to pass a given point?
What has that got to do with anything?
How long? Guess.
10 or 12 seconds maybe.
I would think about 10 seconds, perhaps.
About 10 seconds.
Alright, an elevated train passes a given point in 10 seconds. So, that given point of the room in which the killing took place. You can almost touch the train, right?
Right.
Alright, now let me ask you this. Did anyone here ever lived next to the train tracks? I have. When your window is open and train goes by, the noise is almost unbearable. You can hear think yourself.
Okay, you can't hear yourself think. Will you get to the point?
The old man heard the boy say, I'm gonna kill you. And 1 second later, he heard the body fall. 1 second. That's the testimony, right?
Right.
The woman across the street looked through the windows of the last 2 cars of the EL and saw the body fall, right? Last 2 cars.
What are you giving us here?
An EL takes 10 seconds to pass a given point or 2 seconds per car. That EL had been going by the old man's window for at least 6 seconds and maybe more. Before the body fell, according to the woman, the old man would have had to hear the boy say, I'm gonna kill you, while the front of the EL was roaring past his nose. It's not possible that he could have heard it.
What do you mean? Sure, he could have heard it.
Could he?
He said the boy yelled out. That's enough for me.
I don't think he could have heard it.
What are you people talking about? Are you calling the old man a liar? You are crazy. Why would he lie? What's he got to gain?
Attention, maybe.
You keep coming up with these bright sayings. Why don't you send a one into newspaper? They pay $2.
Why might the old man have lied? He have right to be heard.
It was just that I looked him for a long time. The seam of his jacket was split under the shoulder. Did you notice that? I mean, come to court like that. He was very old man in a torn jacket. He walked very slowly to the stand. He was dragging his left leg and tried to hide it, because he was ashamed. I think I know this man better than anyone here. This is a quite frightened, insignificant old man, who has been nothing all his life, who has never had recognition or his name in the newspaper. Nobody knows him, nobody quotes him, nobody seeks his advice after 25 years. Gentlemen, this is a very sad thing. I mean, to be nothing. A man like needs to be listened to. It's very important to him. It would be so hard for him to recede into the background.
And you are trying to tell us he lied about a thing like this just so it could be important.
He wouldn't really lie, but perhaps he made himself believe he heard those words and recognized the boy's face. In such a case, I think he wanted to talk for sure.
Well, that's the most fantastic story I have ever heard. How can you make up a thing like that? What do you know about it?
I speak from experience.
Alright, is there anything else?
There is something else I'd like to point out here. I think we proved that the old man couldn't have heard the boy say, I'm going to kill you. But supposing he really did hear it, this phrase, how many times has each you used it? Probably hundreds, right? If you do that once more, Junior, I'm going to murder you. Come on, Rocky, kill him. We say it every day. This doesn't mean we're going to kill someone.
Wait a minute. The phrase was, I'm going to kill you, and he screamed at the top of his lungs. Don't try to tell me he didn't mean. Anybody says thing like that, the way he said it, they mean it.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you really think the boy would shout at a thing like that so whole neighborhood would hear it? I don't think so. He's much too bright for that.
Bright, he's a common ignorance law. He don't even speak good English.
Mr. Foreman, I would like to change my vote to not guilty.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
The vote is 5-3 in favor of guilty.
Do me a favor, wake me up and throw.
Alright, this is the apartment in which the killing took place. Here are the EL tracks, the bedroom, living room, bathroom, kitchen, and this is the hall. Here's the front door to the apartment, and here are the steps. Now, the old man was in bed in his room. He says he got up, went out into the hall, down the hall into the front door, opened it, and looked out just in time to see the boy racing down the stairs. Am I right?
Well done, that's the story.
15 seconds after, he heard the body fall. His bed was at the window. It's 12 feet from his bed to the bedroom door. The length of the hall is 43 feet, 6 inches. He had to get up out of bed. He got his gains, walked 12 feet, opened the bedroom door, walked 43 feet, opened the front door, all in 15 seconds. Do you think it's possible?
You know it's possible.
He can only walk very slowly. They had to help into the witness chair.
Do you mind if I tried?
It's a ridiculous waste of time.
Let him do it.
Speed up! He walked twice as fast as that. Come on, buddy, speed up!
What's the time?
15, 20, 31 seconds exactly. It's my guess that the old man was trying to get to the door, heard someone racing down the stairs, and assumed that it was the boy.
I think that's possible.
Assumed? Now listen to me, you people. I have seen all kind of dishonesty in my day, but this little display takes cake. You come here with your heart blooding all over the floor about slum kids and injustice, and you make up this is what stories, and you have got some soft-hearted old ladies listening to you. Well, I'm not. I'm getting real sick of it. What is the matter with you people? This kid is guilty. He's got to burn. We are letting him slip through our fingers here.
Slip through our fingers? Are you his executioner or something?
I'm one of them.
Perhaps you would like to pull the switch.
For this kid, you bet I'd like to pull the switch.
I'm sorry for you, but it must feel like to want to pull the switch. You want to see this boy die because you personally want it, not because of the facts.
Shut up!
You are sadist!
Let me go! I'll kill him! I'll kill him!
You don't really mean you'll kill me, do you?
What are you looking at?
Well, we are still nowhere. Who has got an idea?
I think we should try another vote, Mr. Foreman.
It's okay. Anybody doesn't want to vote?
I want an open ballot. Let's call out our votes. I want to know who stands where.
Alright, I call off your jury numbers. I vote guilty. Number 2,
Not guilty.
number 3,
Guilty.
number 4,
Guilty.
number 5,
Not guilty.
number 6,
Guilty.
number 7,
Not guilty.
number 8.
Not guilty.
The vote is 4-4. Alright, who's got something constructive to say?
Well, something's bothering me a little. The whole business about Stanford and how it was made. The downward angle of it, you know.
Don't tell me we're gonna start that. They went over it and over in court.
I know, they did, but I don't go along with it. The boy is 5 inches tall. His father was 6'2". That's a difference of 6 inches. It's an awkward step down in the chest of someone who's half a taller than you.
Look, you are not going to be satisfied until you see it again. I'm going to give you a demonstration. Somebody get up. Okay, now watch this. I don't want you to do it again. Is that 6 inches?
That's more than 6 inches.
Let it be more. Yes. Alright. There is your angle. Take a look at it. Down on it. That's how I will stab a tether man in the chest. And that's how it was done. Take a look at it. And tell me I'm wrong.
Alright, I want to ask you something. The boy was experienced knife fighter, right? He was even sent to reform school for knifing someone. Isn't that so?
That's right.
Wait a minute.
Give me that knife. Here you are.
In my backyard, on my stoop, in the vacant lot across the street, too many of them. Switch knives came with the neighborhood where I lived. Funny, I didn't think of it before. I guess you try to forget those things. Anyone who's ever used switch knife would never have stayed downward. You don't handle a switch knife like that. You use it underhand.
Then he couldn't have made the kind of wound which killed his father.
No, he couldn't have. If you have any experience with switch knives,
I don't believe it.
So, what about you?
Listen, I'll tell you something. I'm a little sick of this whole thing already. We are getting nowhere fast. Let's break it up and go home. I'm changing my vote to not guilty.
You're what?
You heard me. I've had enough.
What do you mean? You had enough? That's not an answer.
I think perhaps you are right. This is not an answer. What kind of person you are?
No, wait a minute. You can't talk to me like that.
I can talk to you like that. If you want to vote not guilty, then do it because you are convinced. If you believe he is guilty, then vote that way.
Now, listen.
Is he guilty or not guilty?
I told you, not guilty. I don't think he is guilty.
I want another vote, Mr. Foreman.
Okay, there's another vote called for. I guess the quickest way is a show of hands.
Who votes for guilty? 2. The vote is 62 in favor of not guilty.
I still believe the boy is guilty of murder. I'll tell you why. To me, the most damning evidence was given by the woman across the street who claimed she actually saw the murder committed.
That's right. As far as I'm concerned, that's the most important testimony.
Alright, let's go over her testimony. What exactly did she say?
She said that she went to the bed at that night. Her bed was next to the open window and she could look out of the window while lying down and see directly into window across the street. She tossed and turned over for an hour, unable to fall asleep. Finally, she turned toward the window and as she looked out, she saw the boy stab his father. As far as I can see, this is unshakable testimony.
That's what I mean, that's the whole case.
What do you think about it?
Well, maybe there's so much evidence to sift.
What do you mean? Maybe he's absolutely right. You can throw out all the evidence.
That was my feeling.
Excuse me, can you see the clock without your glasses?
Not clearly. Why?
I don't know. Look, this may be a dumb thought, but what do you do when you wake up at night and want to know what time is it?
What do you mean? I put on my glasses and look at the clock.
So, you don't wear them to bed?
Of course not. No one wears eyeglasses to bed.
What is all this for?
Well, I was thinking, you know, the woman who testified that she saw the killing wears glasses.
So does my grandmother. So what?
Your grandmother is not a murder witness.
Look, stop me if I'm wrong. This woman wouldn't wear eyeglasses to bed, would she?
Wait a minute. Did she wear glasses at all? I don't remember.
of course she did. The women were bifocals. I remember this very clearly. They looked quite strong.
That's right, bifocals. She never took them off.
She wore glasses. Funny, I never thought of it.
Listen, she wasn't wearing them in bed, that's for sure. She testified that in the midst of her tossing and turning she rolled over and looked casually out the window. The murder was taking place as she looked out, and the lights went out a split second later. She couldn't have had time to put on her glasses. Now maybe she honestly thought she saw the boy kill his father. I say that she saw only a blur.
How do you know what she saw? Maybe she's farsighted. How does he know all these things?
Does anyone think that still is no reasonable doubt?
I think he's guilty.
What do you think?
No, I'm convinced.
You're alone, man.
I don't care whether I'm alone or not. I have a right.
Yes, you have a right.
Well, I told you. I think the kid is guilty. What else do you want?
Your arguments.
I gave you my arguments.
We are not convinced. We are waiting to hear them again. We have time.
Listen, what is the matter with you? You are the guy. You made all the arguments you can turn now. A murderer gonna be walking on the streets. A murderer. He's got to die. Stay with me.
I'm sorry. There is no reasonable doubt in my mind.
We are waiting.
Well, you are not going to intimidate me. I'm entitled to my opinion. It's gonna be a hung jury. That's it.
There's nothing we can do about that, except hope that some night, maybe in a few months, we'll get some sleep.
You are all alone.
It takes a great deal of courage to stand alone.
Alright. Not guilty.
This knife is a pretty strong evidence, don't you agree? This knife is a pretty strong piece of evidence, don't you agree? This knife is a pretty strong. If the boy kid.
We all know what it looks like. I don't see why we have to look at it again.
Ay dur.
Şimdi.
Sabrina! Evil! That's right. That's right. She saw the killing. Here's a woman. Come on. He didn't mean you.
Hadi. Sorry. Hi guys, we were hungry and we're eating pizza.
Vallahi
Yes.
ikinci sayfayı bitirmek üzereyiz.
No.
Tickle tickle.
I got it last night in a little junk shop around the corner from boy's house.
Take a look at that knife. It's very strange knife. I have never seen... Gülme ya.
O hala çekiyor galiba.
Yakup
Kamera
ne
arkası
kadar tahmin edin.
çekiyor.
Tekrar Yakup'un How Long Guess. Sonra İbu 17-12 saniye.
Çok mükemmel bıçakla satın almış.
Hadi bizi çekiyor, gelin kağıdı.
Amca ya oğlum abart.
Shut up!
You're sadist.
Shut up!
You're sadist.
Let him ne ya?
You don't.
Shut up!
You're sadist.
Let me go! I'll kill him! I'll kill him!
Alright, now you gentlemen.
If you something very strongly. The man.
Bir dakika nereden?
Look at the kids record. He's at 15.
Millet dua. Başladın mı şu an?
Sen vur sen.
Ben vuracağım kameraya. Şuraya geçeceğiz, tekrar çekeceğiz, tamam mı?
Başladı da siz
I lived in slum all my life. Yeah, bak öyle. That was fulfilled. Yeah, it was fulfilled with baggage. Ne? With baggage. May it smells on me. Yeah.
Olmadı.
That was fulfilled with baggage. Play backyard. That was fulfilled with baggage. I lived slum all my life. Ya yine it was fulfilled with baggage. Yine mi yanlış yaptım? Farkında da değil.
Varmış dedin yine.
Kapı çaldı.
I lived in slum all my life. I used to play in backyard that was fulfilled with garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage. With garbage.
Doğru yaptı.
Yaptı.
Ama orası helal olsun.